Hello. I was muted a second ago. Sorry about that. This is the second video in the DBT MCP data engineering series. This one's on using the DBT MCP to bring AI and use Cursor to analyze the data set we created in the last project in the series. Awesome. So this is the second part. The next one is going to be on the Jupyter MCP using notebooks with APIs, and then the final one, part 4, is going to be on Grafana. So that's going to be visualizing and sharing insights. So 30-second summary of this project. Data teams at big companies like GitLab, Glossier, and Instacart transform millions of rows of messy data into clear business insight every day. What's their secret? DBT. Want to try it yourself? Definitely. We can have a look at the definitions prompt here for what DBT actually is. So it's a data build tool, open source tool that helps data teams transform data in their own warehouses. In their own data warehouses, it allows you to write, test, and document data transformations using SQL, bringing software engineering practices like version control and testing to analytics. Yeah, oops, muted live for 30 seconds at the start. Luckily that wasn't a bit later on. Cool, so we'll use DBT to transform raw e-commerce data from the previous project in the series into custom analytics. We'll build models that can calculate customer lifetime value, segment users by behavior, and reveal purchasing patterns all through Cursor's chat. So how do these pieces fit together? We'll use Cursor to control DBT through Model Context Protocol, which runs transformations on PostgreSQL or on our PostgreSQL database. So we can have a look on the transformations definitions here. So it's a process which changes the format of data effectively, structure and format of data. And being able to do that on the fly with a bunch of on a sort of mass global scale is really handy. So we're going to use the Cursor to do that. We can have a look at this swim lane chart here. So in Cursor, we're going to provide natural language queries. Cursor's going to decide whether we're going to use the DBT MCP, so the data build tool MCP, or not, or another MCP. It's going to call specific APIs depending on our natural language request. And then those call functions, which access data, and then output information to the Cursor chat, which we can view and understand. So by the end of this project, we'll have a custom analytics model showing how much customers spend, how they behave, and why they buy what they buy. Thank you. Thank you. You're rocking it, Kahu. Thank you very much. Data quality tests, ensuring your analytics are reliable. And in the secret mission, we'll go into interactive DBT documentation with model descriptions, column details, and lineage graphs. Super, super cool. Okay, so if you haven't done project 1 yet, that's totally fine. This project builds on project 1. We set it up. You can either complete project 1 first, so entirely like I did a couple of days ago. Hello, Raj and Pingu again, back for another live stream. Welcome. Or you can follow through in this project where we talk about, we walk you through how to just get up to the point really quickly for project 1. So you might be wondering, what's the difference between SQL and DBT? So structured query language, SQL, is structured query language that lets you query data sets and databases. You can see there an example selecting staff from customers, all sorts of stuff, super powerful. Yeah, right on time. Yeah. Yeah, and DBT is a tool that helps you write, test, and organize SQL transformations as code. And a transformation, as we just went over, is literally changing the format of data. So yeah, that's how we can think of it. So SQL is a language, but DBT is a framework that makes your SQL reusable, testable, and documentable. Instead of just writing one-off queries like we see there, select star from customers, it would be something that would be reusable and rerunnable, which is super, super useful. Cool. I think this project is viewable. I'm just checking myself. Cool, I'll just log in 1 second. So good to see such a high turnout in the chat. It's awesome. We can also check using the ask feature if this project is right for us. I definitely recommend using the ask feature for any sort of debugging as well as just asking about the project you're in or other projects. It's super, super useful. Cool, very good. Alright, so we can start with why are we doing this project. So I'm doing this project, I can say, to understand how I can better utilize AI in my data engineering workflow, specifically around understanding my data with models. DBT is it's an open source data build tool that allows you to run models SQL models at scale. And a data transformation is, so is there any watch party for this in Discord? I don't know, I don't think there is at the moment. Maybe we can get one set up, I'm not sure. A data transformation is reformatting / scaling data. So what are we doing in this project? In this project, I'm going to understand how I can, maybe I can say, oh, that makes sense to understand. I'm going to understand how I can better utilize AI in my data engineering workflow, specifically around understanding my data with models, DBT models. DBT is an open source data build tool. So just open source tool. DBT data build tool is an open source tool that allows you to run SQL models at scale. A data transformation is the reformatting slash scaling of data. Okay, Raj, I think we're setting up a watch party for this in Discord. Cool. Okay, I think there's a link for a watch party. Okay, so I might leave this quiz to the end, see how we get on there, and do it at the end. So we'll be going through the high touch, step-by-step guidance track. So yeah, super cool. Definitely hit up the Nextwork community, the Discord, see what they're up to. If you ever get stuck or any questions about this project or any other project, I'm sure everyone's very happy to help. Cool. So step 1, let's get DBT set up. We'll configure the DBT MCP server and get your transformation toolkit ready. If you've already completed project 1 of the series, this will be quick. We're just adding one more MCP to your existing setup. Cool. I'm going to go all the way from 0 to into this project, so I won't be starting from where I finished off the other day. Yeah, it should be very quick to get back to where we were. Cool. So we're going to verify project 1 is already set up. We're going to initialize a DBT project to create the project structure. Add the DBT MCP to cursor. Restart cursor to activate all 3 MCPs. That's what we're going to do in this step. So you can just use the ask feature here to ask about what is DBT init, initializing the DBT MCP. So in this step, I'm setting up DBT, which is a data tool for running SQL models. The DBT MCP will let me create, design, and run models in say through cursor. So what are we doing in this step? We can also add initializing, setting up DBT. Initializing DBT, adding into cursor. Just get a JSON file. Okay, so what are we doing in this step? In this step, I'm setting up DBT, so that's initializing it, and adding it into our cursor mcp.json file. DBT is a tool for running SQL models. The DBT MCP will let me create, design, and run these models through cursor. Through cursor using the cursor chat. Cool, so check your prerequisites from project 1. First, let's make sure you have everything from project 1 ready to go. So, 2 options, 2 tabs here. I have completed project 1 and I haven't done project 1. So, I'm going to walk through, I haven't done project 1, in case there's anyone in the same position. So, this should be pretty quick. 15 minutes is pretty generous. We're doing 10, 5. Yeah, so this is a quick setup here. So what you'll get set up is Docker Desktop, PostgreSQL, a container with that from Docker. We're going to install UV Package Manager if it isn't already. Set up MCP servers for Docker and Postgres, and then load in the demo data into the PostgreSQL container. Awesome, so install Docker Desktop. So we're going to check first if it's installed. First check if you already have Docker installed, open terminal, Mac, or if you're on Windows, open PowerShell. So I'll do that. Cool, so we can paste the command in from here. So we can see that I see a Docker version, so we don't need to actually go reinstall this. If you do need to install it, there's steps here for Mac and Windows. There's also an entire project dedicated which goes through this entire setup process if you want to do that instead. But yeah, we'll be sticking on the I see a version number track here. So now we're going to go into the same terminal and run UV version. So in this case, we still see a version number, so we're just going to continue. So that means UV is already installed. Same with Docker. So if it wasn't, you can go through and set it up on this track here. Very cool. So we're going to now go into Cursor and then start getting these MCPs working. So I'll just open up Cursor. This generally takes a couple seconds on my Windows laptop. This is such a cool project though, getting to run your own models and create and design them just straight from Cursor. It's a really cool thing. I'm super stoked to be able to go and show it off. Where can I put this? Over there. Okay, cool. So got Cursor open now. So what I'll do is I'll click Open Project. I'll head to my desktop and I will create a new folder. And I will call this folder MCP Data Series. So the idea is you already have this folder if you'd done the previous project. In that case, you would choose the other tab. But we're going to go through and do it from scratch here. Cool. So we're going to run these commands in the terminal. So we'll run UV init, so initializing UV, which is a Python package manager, which we went over in the previous project. And you can see a little note there about something else being a member of a different workspace, which is completely fine. That just means you would have already initialized UV in this space. So on a desktop, for instance, I've done this project a couple times for testing, and I've already got something there, but doesn't cause any issues, just makes a note. So now we're going to run a Docker command to set up the Docker container. I will do that. So what this is doing is it's just, you could do this with the MCP call if you'd set up the MCPs as we do in the previous project. But we're just going to do it with a command here for simplicity. So that's worked. That's cool. It can take up to 20 seconds to actually go through and start. We'll just keep an eye on Docker here. Cool. So I won't keep this on my screen permanently, but you can see that the Docker instance has been created and it's active. It's online. So that's cool. Well, it's running. Sorry, running locally. That's very good. So now what we can do is pull in. We can pull in content from the demo data into our database that currently we just created then. So I'll just copy this, and what this is doing is it's just doing it's just pulling in data from that link and then saving it as demodata.sql, and then we are loading that into our database with this get content command here. So we're just going to paste this in. Let's take a second, download the file there, and then afterwards we should see rows and stuff loading in. Awesome. Okay, so created the schema, bunch of tables, then inserted a bunch of stuff. Very good. That lines up. Nice. Cool. Now for the MCP config stuff. Okay, so we'll click the gear icon on the top right of the cursor. We'll select Tools and MCPs. I might just make this a little bigger so I can point to stuff. Cool, we'll click Add Custom MCP. So you can see currently it's blank because I haven't, I've set this up, so I haven't done the previous project. And if you have, it would look different, but you would have chosen a different tab. So that's all good. Cool, so we can copy the Windows MCP config file into what we have here. We can save, and then we can quit cursor and reopen it. So MCPs are launched on, or like started on cursor launch or IDE launch if you're using another IDE which you've got that set up on, or Claude Desktop for instance, or Claude Code. They both all require to restart, so we should see both of these go green in a moment. Which is good. Cool. There you go. You can see tools are available there. So that lines up. Cool. Alright, we're all set up. So this is where you would finish project 1 in terms of your configuration setup. You would have done a lot more stuff using these things, but that's where project 1 gets you to in terms of config. So we can start doing the rest of this now. Or actually start the DBT project. So we're going to start by initializing our DBT project. So before we can configure the MCP, we need to create a folder structure. This is where all the transformations will live. And so we'll run present working directory in here just to make sure we're actually in the right location. So we can see, and this is quite obvious because I've got paths turned on, but if you didn't, you wouldn't be able to see this. So it's a good idea just to make sure you're in the right folder so you don't do anything incorrectly. And if you're in the wrong spot, you can definitely go and use the ask feature to see if you can, it can help you figure out where to go. So now we're going to initialize the DBT thing, which will be cool. So that will load and create a file called demo, I think should do. Oh, it gives us the option to, right, yeah. So enter the database name demo. So here it's suggested that I already have profile set up for this, but for this live stream I'll go and just overwrite what I have. It's just a copy of what's here. Cool, so now we're going to configure your DBT profile. So a DBT profile is something that is saved to a directory called .dbt, and that has a couple things in it. You can do other stuff there as well, but this will save data build tool configs that are related to your person. So if you've got stuff specifically set up for running models in a certain way, this is where it will get saved. For different environments, for instance, this is where it will get saved. That's what we're doing right now. So yeah, if you're wondering what that is. So we're going to select Postgres, just one. We're going to enter the host name localhost. Then we're going to select the default port 5432. You can just press enter here. You don't actually have to type anything in. And then we're going to enter a username of app and a password of app. So we're using the same username and password that we configured with Postgres, so it's able to talk to it, because that's obviously what we want to do with our data build tool. The models with it, at least, we want to be able to talk to the database we have set up in Postgres with Docker. So really important that you use the username and password app. And you can see there that, or you can't see, I guess, pass doesn't come up with anything even though I've typed something in, and that's completely normal. It just doesn't show what you've typed, but it is certainly still there. So database name, we'll call this demo. Schema, we're going to call this app, and then threads will select one. So you can see there it's created a profiles.yaml file at .dbt in my user, which is exactly what we want. It's just configured a bunch of settings as for me for what I've just specified. And you can go run this again and configure stuff again if you want, or just go edit the file manually. Awesome. So we can see that our output looks very similar to, should be exactly the same really, of the screenshot here, which is super good, because we've configured it correctly. And we do indeed see a demo folder in our MCP data series project, so we're off to a good start there. And we can actually go into a little bit what this command, the initialization command command for the data build tool, actually means or is. So this command uses UV to temporarily install DBT and run the initialization wizard using the --with flag to install DBT core, DBT Postgres. For this command, it's going to prompt us for connection details like localhost, DBT project folder structure, configuration files, generate configuration files like dbt project.yaml for project settings and profiles.yaml. We saw that for database connections, and set up example models you can learn from. So you can see inside of demo, there's models and 2 example models here. We won't be using these. We can see them at the end of the secret mission, how they link together, but we're going to create our own model shortly. Cool, so what do these settings actually mean, the ones we configured? These connections being saved to the profile.yaml file. The host refers to where Postgres SQL is running. So we've specified localhost, which is on our own computer. It notes there that on production this would be a remote server address, so just an IP address 127.110. Just an IP to an external server that's going to hold a database you want to connect to. And port, we just select the default port. We could really do a lot of stuff. This whole things be configured around choosing that port. So definitely choose it in this demo, this project. But 5432 is just an arbitrary number that was chosen for us. So we can see that the user and pass as well, user and password. It was stuff that was used from project 1, so we're just continuing on with that, so we can actually interact still with Postgres, or the PostgreSQL database we set up, DB name, the demo database with your e-commerce data, schema, the app schema where DBT will create new tables, threads, how many queries DBT can run simultaneously. One is totally fine. You can definitely speed that up by increasing it. It's probably not much point doing it for small local databases like this, especially if you're running this not for high performance reasons, just spinning something up locally for, say, a web server or something. Awesome. So what did DBT init create, and what connection settings did you use? So DBT init is the command we just ran. It created we can see here it created a lot of stuff. I won't list every single thing it created, but a models directory, profile.yaml to store connection configs, also user connection configs. So created an example models directory. And a readme.markdown for documentation. So I configured the connection settings. You can list them here. So port, you could say port, you could say host, you could say DB name, schema, password, anything else, password name, threads as well, not really a connection setting. Yeah, cool, I think that's all good. So what did DBT init create, and what connection settings did you use? So running DBT init created an example models directory, profiles.yaml to store user connection configs, and a readme.markdown for documentation. I configured the connection settings port, or you can say for port, host, DB name, schema, password, and you can say username to make it more clear. Awesome. We can also have a look here at the new feature that we've just brought out. We'll have a much better look at this at the end, but this is the live docs feature, so we can see it build live rather than right at the end we generate. It's it's working as we go. We can see screenshots and everything in here, and there's different templates and different styles and stuff like that. So it's super cool. We'll touch on this more at the end, but definitely you can see the view my work button pulls it up. You can go to full screen as well, see where we're at the moment. But yeah, we'll touch on this at the end. I'll get too distracted. Awesome. So now we're going to configure the DBT MCP server inside of Cursor. So it's time to add DBT MCP server to Cursor. This will let you run DBT commands, so data build tool commands on our models through the chat. We're going to go to the settings, close this stuff, MCPs, head to the settings icon, we'll head, so click the settings icon, top right of the cursor, select tools and MCPs, you can see here, click add a custom MCP, cool, so now it'll open up, it's a bit smaller, it'll open up our mcp.json file, which is exactly where we want to be. We should already have Docker and Postgres MCP servers from Project 1, which we do. Now let's add the DBT MCP server. So I'm going to go on Windows, because that's the operating system I'm using. And we're going to run this kind of funky looking command, and I'll explain why we're using this command when I run it. So we ran the command, cool, we got the right looking output. So what does the command do? pwd gets the present working directory, and the replace regex there converts backslashes to forward slashes, which works better in JSON. And you can see here in these we're using there's no paths there, but MCPs require in this JSON format require forward slashes. So that's what the delta is there, the regex pattern is doing. In Mac you don't actually need to do this, it gives you in the right way around, but PWD doesn't. So we're going to copy this path from the output, so we're going to highlight and Control C. I'm going to scroll down to here, so fill in the path from the output. So we're going to replace your MCP series path, this one, with the copied command. So we'll paste that in and press enter. And then we're going to replace your username with your Windows username. You can get this from the same pwd command you just ran, just after the C users bit. You can see it highlighted in red there. So we go and copy this. We can chuck that in there. Chuck it in there, press enter. And then we can copy this, scroll up and copy the filled in config. So now we're going to add it to our MCP servers section of the mcp.json. I'll just point out, as it does down here, it's super important to add the comma, otherwise the JSON file won't work. You need to add that. So we can see here, we're going to add that, paste in our new MCP server, and this actually would work as it is, but I'm just going to tidy this up a little bit. There, so we can see no syntax errors or anything, and we have this configured with the what is supposed to be the correct paths. We'll test that in a second. So before I go and restart, I'll just think about what does this MCP configuration do. So if we look at the command, args, and env we've got listed there, commands and args tell UV to run the DBT server with the with flags that installs the core and the Postgres packages. So that's when it starts. You don't need to run a UV add or UV run add DBT or Postgres or DBT Postgres. And the two paths there specify where our DBT folder is, as well as where our profiles file that we created earlier with the DBT init is hanging out. So that's in the .dbt directory, as I pointed out. Six people are tuning in this live from Discord, haha, saying hi. Hello, 6 people. Hope you're enjoying. I've opened up the chat on the watch party, so I'll have a look if there's anything, but I can't join the call. Okay, so we can save this with Control S or Command S on Mac, and then we can close cursor and reopen it. Like I said before, cursor and any IDE or program will re-register or refresh or start their model context protocol servers that are linked to it on startup. So that hasn't happened yet, or generally won't on cursor because that's just been sitting there open since we've added it. So we're going to close it. It's important not to just minimize, or on a Mac, even if you click close in the corner, you should right click and click quit. Or you can, on Windows, you can do Alt F4, work as well. So we'll reopen cursor, and then ideally, if we head back to the top right corner, the settings, and then go into Tools and MCP, this should be green. Hope we'll give it a minute. Nice, okay. We can see 8 tools there. Very good. So we can see 3 green indicators. That means they're connected and the tools specified for the MCPs are enabled. And yeah, that's completely normal to see an orange light, orange indicator for a period of time before you go and, yeah, well, just while it finishes booting up after the others do their thing. But if it's not green, it's red, and it stays red, then there's definitely some stuff you can do to debug. More than likely, as pointed out here, it'll be a path issue. So that's your best bet looking there. You can definitely go to the Ask feature to help, to see if it can help you. Definitely recommend that. Yeah, for sure. Folder names, if you didn't initialize correctly, if you didn't do those init steps as listed with, say, a different username or a different password, you might also run into the same issue. But yeah, if you do, as I just did, as the project lists, you shouldn't run into this. But if you do, go to the community, use the ask feature. I'm sure you'll be able to conquer. But I'm going to go down this 3 green indicators route. So awesome. You now have all 3 MCP servers working together. Let's put them to good use. Okay, and then we'll take a screenshot of these MCP servers working. Cool, so how did you configure the DBT MCP? I configured the DBT MCP by adding it to my mcp.json file in cursor and restarting the IDE to start the DBT MCP server. Maybe to make sure the DBT MCP server is started. The configuration includes, so we can jump back to the mcp.json file here, and we can look at, we can list some of the stuff off here that the DBT mcp.json file needs. New milestone unlocked, yes, definitely. Includes DBT profiles directory, it includes DBT project directory. We can be more explicit. We can say keyboard has decided to not want to. Doesn't work. Okay. Keyboard stopped working. The configuration includes so environment variables, which are DBT profiles directory and DBT project directory, as well as args, which are run with DBT MCP. DBT core. These widths just chain all the commands together when ran with UV. DBT Postgres. And DBT Postgres. And then you've got the running command. The command run. Cool, so how did you configure the DBT MCP? I configured the DBT MCP by adding it to the mcp.json file in Cursor and restarted the IDE to make sure the DBT MCP server started. So it's been started. The configuration includes an env tag for the DBT profiles directory and project directory. It includes the arguments to run with the following. So that's the DBT MCP itself, DBT core, and DBT Postgres, and the command. We could say command uv to run /install. Okay. Very good. Okay, Nat's grabbing a tea. Be right back. All good, Nat. Step 2, building and running our DBT model. Time to build something cool. You'll create a DBT model that transforms raw e-commerce data into customer analytics, the same kind of analysis that powers dashboards like Spotify and Amazon. Your model will estimate how much each customer is worth over time, group customers by how they act, and show the best-selling product categories. How good. So we can use the definition feature here as well if you're wondering what a DBT model is. A DBT model is a SQL or Python file that defines a data transformation within a data warehouse, so database. It uses select statements to clean, reshape, and combine raw data into new structured data sets, making data ready for analysis. So our model, our model will give us some information on customer analytics, and then in this step we're going to create a customer analytics model in SQL, structured query language, run the transformation using DBT MCP through the cursor chat, and query the results to discover customer insights. Nice. So why use DBT instead of just running structured query language? So running structured query language in a database client works for one-time queries, like selecting a certain thing or adding two things together, deleting stuff, that sort of thing. But what if you need time to run the same transformation daily or share it with teammates or test data is valid? That's where DBT shines, DBT models are saved as SQL files and are version controlled. Reusable, testable, and documentable. When you run a model, DBT executes the SQL and creates a table, but now logic is saved, repeatable, and production ready. Yeah, super important. I think the biggest takeaway from that is the, I would say, portability, to use that word, as in, you're working in a big team with a bunch of people. You need to, if you're a data engineer, your goal is to, if your goal is to share a summary of content at like a technical level, not just in a visual presentation, you're going to share a DBT model, or at least a model that can summarize data. And DBT is a really good open source tool to do that. So what are we doing in this step? In this step, I'm creating a DBT model. The model will transform ... The model will transform customer, say, e-commerce data over 40,000 lines of e-commerce data. Say 40,000 lines of unorganized e-commerce data into a summary of customer analytics. Best customers. Etc. This is different from a regular SQL query because it can be, well, it is portable, it is portable, so shareable with team, and can be ran on a daily basis. Cool, so what are we doing in this step? This is step 2. In this step, I'm creating a DBT model. The model will transform over 40,000 rows of unorganized e-commerce data into a summary of customer analytics. So that can be it's going to be habits, and much more than this: habits, best customers, patterns, and purchases, and other stuff. This is different from a regular SQL query because it is portable. The model is portable, it's shareable with a team, and can be reused on a daily, or let me say regular basis. Nice. Okay, let's actually go and create the model now. Create customer analytics model. Let's create a DBT model that calculates custom analytics. This model will combine data from multiple tables, customers, orders, products, to give you insights into customer behavior. In Cursor's File Explorer, navigate to your DBT project folder and open the models folder. You should see an example folder with some sample models. So if we go over here, we can open it, we can see some samples there. Very good. What's the example folder? DBT creates example models when you initialize a project. These are templates you can learn from, but we'll be creating our own models in the main model folder. So we're going to right click in the example folder and create, select new file, and then we're going to call it customanalytics.sql. So this will be our model we're running. I'm going to copy this from the next work project, and then we're going to Control S or Command S, depending on what operating system you're using. So now, understanding the SQL concepts in this model. So, we can close this chat. Where is it? Here you go. Alright, just trying to get it nice and big so talk about things and pointer stuff. So it does look complex, I get that, especially if you haven't looked at structured query language files before. But we'll definitely do our best to go through and break anything down. If anyone has any comments or questions, I'm happy to answer them on the fly about anything here. So aggregates, functions that can calculate summary values, we can see them here. So is count, we can go and get. So this counts unique orders. There's a sum here as well. Min, max, and average. So they're all calculating average values from total amounts for orders, order dates, and you can see average, sum, so summing everything up, and then saving it as a name in a new table. So relatively simple, really. Window functions, you can use the definition here. There's row number over partition by, and so window function in SQL is a function that performs a calculation across a set of tables, rows related to the current row. Unlike aggregate function, it doesn't group rows into a single output. Instead, it returns a value for each row, often used for ranking, moving averages, or cumulative sums. So definitely when you look at these, it may look like, oh, it's just outputting something. Why do we use this over an aggregate? And it's really to do with outputting like an individual compared to a table. A column. So we can see an example of a window function here in calculating a individual number, top or individual quantity, top category per customer. So yeah, it's going to go through and calculate that for every customer per customer. So yeah, we can see that here, groups data by customer. Another one here, ranks categories by spending, so order by sum, category spend, description. This identifies a customer's number one favorite category. Again, looking at that habits and pattern stuff we were talking about earlier on, which is what we're using it for in this case, identifying. So those are two key types there, and we can look at what does this model actually do overall if you take a step back. The SQL transformation custom orders, which is a CTE, aggregates, so it comes up with sort of summary bits of order metrics per customer. So a CTE is a temporary named result set that you can reference with a single SQL command or delete. It helps you break down custom complex queries into more readable and manageable and often recursive parts. So CTE aggregates orders metrics per customer, total order lifetime value. So that's what custom orders is in here. We can have a look. That's what this function does. We've also got product preferences. CTE again calculates spending per product category per customer, and CTE is custom table execute that calculates spending per product category per customer, top category per customer. Again, identifies with the CTE each customer's favorite category using a window function. We spoke about these earlier. Good for sort of slightly more discrete things. Well, they give you a discrete output, I should say. Or discrete's not the right word. It's like a individual item. Top category per customer. CTE identifies each customer's favorite category. Window function, we just went over that. And final select combines everything and gives you your output. DBT will run this SQL and create a new table in your database with the results when you run the model. I think I got this actually wrong. I think I said custom. Common table expression. Apologies. CTE stands for common table expression with custom orders as something. Syntax creates a temporary named result set that you can reference in later parts of the query. It's like a variable. If you know how to write code in Python or anything really with variables, exactly the same thing to help you break down complex queries into readable steps. Okay, that was a lot of information, but it explains what goes on in here with CTEs, aggregates, CTE aggregates, and window functions. Yeah. So that's sort of like creating columns, individual numbers, and then variables, I guess, for doing those calculations, which is cool. Awesome. Just reading the Discord chat. Explain the SQL concept using your customer analytics model. A CTE is a common expression, or table expression, sorry. Common table expression. An example of an aggregate function in a model is finding the max, which finds the maximum value. Also average, also sum. You can see some more listed up here. An aggregate function's goal is to, we can see here, it's calculate summary values of outputs, which is useful. So we can say goal is to calculate summary values for say output summary values. Window functions are used to we can look at the definition here. Window function is an SQL function that performs a calculation across a set of table rows related to a current row. Unlike aggregate function, it doesn't group rows into a single output. Instead, it returns a value for each row. It's used to return values per row. Used to group values and return values per row. So group and return values per row. Cool. Sounds good to me. Explain the SQL concepts used in your custom analytics model. A CTE is a common table expression. An example of an aggregate function in this model is max, which finds the maximum value. This aggregate function goal is to calculate the output summary values. We could be calculate output summary values. maximum value of dot 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 and output it. Window functions are used to group and return values per row. Nice. Awesome. So we're now going to actually run the model, run the DBT model with MCP. So now for the magic, sparkle emoji. Let's use Cursor's chat to run your DBT model and watch it transform your data. So we're going to open the chat. It's actually already open in Cursor. Send this prompt. So here, putting it into the Cursor chat. Cursor will use the DBT MCP to execute your model. You'll see output showing SQL compilation, number of rows processed, and execution time. So eventually we should see something a little like this. We've got on the left hand side there. Cool, so compilation succeeded, executing the query to directly view the results. That's viewing the table it created, this one down here. That's a bit bigger so we can actually see. Cool, so it's just summarizing the results in a table, which is great. Makes it nice and easy for us to understand. Cool. So we can see total customers there. We can see different customer segments, occasional, so that's less than 5 orders, regular, VIP, no customers in VIP, average lifetime value, average total orders, average total value, number of customers in different categories or different like plans, favorite categories, key insights. Cool. That looks right to me. What just happened? DBT compiled your SQL, executed it against your database, and created a new customer analytics table with the transformed data, which it did beautifully. So we can see that the model ran successfully. That's what happened in our case. It definitely is possible for it to not. You might see something like relation doesn't exist, column doesn't exist, connection refused. That may could be a Postgres being down thing, like locally on Docker if you didn't have it open, or configuration setting and username or a password could be wrong that you set up earlier. Definitely head to the community or use the ask feature here to help in that case. So upload a screenshot of your DBT model successfully running. So I'll take a screenshot of the top part of this graph. Let me just zoom out a little bit on this table, sorry. Yeah. Whoa, that's so cool. So do you run the transformation? Run the transformation everything you want the table to reflect the latest data, the same like output to happen across different data sets, different databases. I hope that answers your question. but yeah, you run the transformation on everything you want to summarize. And the way you configure that is by selecting stuff like we've done in this SQL model here. How did you run the model and what insights did you discover? So I ran the DBT model by calling it through the DBT MCP using cursors chat. The output showed customer analytics. The total number of customers is, we had 100 in our data set. An insight I learned from running this DBT model is, so we can look down at some of the insights it gave. So is no VIP customers. %60 are regular customers and 15 orders. And electronics and toys are the most popular products categories. Nice, so how did you run your model and what insights did you discover? I ran the DBT model by calling it through the DBT MCP using the cursor chat. The output showed customer analytics. The total number of customers is 100. An insight I learned from running this DBT model is there are no VIP customers, 60% are regular customers, 5 to 15 orders, and electronics and toys the most popular categories, product categories. Step 3. Awesome, so now we're going to add quality tests to our data using DBT. So add data quality tests. Companies like Airbnb and GitLab don't just transform data, they test it. You're about to add DBT tests to automatically catch data quality issues like missing values, duplications, or just invalid data. Ensuring your analytics are production ready and trustworthy. How good. So in this step, we're going to add built-in DBT tests to your model, run tests to verify data quality, and identify and fix a test failure. So what are we doing in this step? In this step, I'm adding DBT tests, which are data quality tests, tests are important because they catch data quality tests issues, like missing values, duplications, or invalid data. So what are we doing in this step? In this step, I'm adding DBT tests, which are data quality tests. Tests are important because they catch data quality issues like missing values, duplications, or invalid data. Add tests to your model DBT includes built-in tests you can add to your scheme.yml. Let's add that. Let's add tests that verify your data is clean and reliable. So we're going to go back to cursor now, and we're going to go to our schema.yaml file. Should I minimize that a little bit? Open up the Explorer here. So we can see on the left-hand side, we have a schema.yaml file here. It's got some stuff in it already. This gets pre-generated on run when we initialize. So that's good, but we can definitely do better. This just specifies, you can see the my first DBT model and second DBT model that it auto-generates when we do the DBT in it. So not useful for us for our custom analytics model we've got going on there. Okay, so now we're going to include tests under the columns that we've set up. So if we drop our new one in there, I'll just minimize this. We can see that for customer analytics, we have tests now for not null for a bunch of different stuff. Different accepted values, criterias, given descriptions as well. For naming things so it's more organized. We'll do documentation a bit later on, which will be quite cool. Super excited about that. Thank you for the emojis, Natasha. Very good. Yeah, no, super cool. So we can save this file. What do these tests do? Not null ensures columns have no missing values, which is null. You added this to customer ID, email, lifetime value, customer segment, and total orders. Now we can see that there on all of these. That's a really good check that you don't really want something in a database to be, well, there's many reasons to want something not to be null. It's totally valid data position to be null. But you know, for the stuff we don't want that. We want to make sure everything, you know, every person in the database has a customer ID, an email, a lifetime value, customer segment, and an accepted value. So we write not null there to configure that. So we get notified if they did have null there. Unique, that ensures no duplicate values. So for custom ID, that makes plenty of sense. An email, or like any sort of user-specific stuff, but maybe for total orders, you know, I could have 5 orders. Natasha could have another 5, and that's not a problem. Yeah, that's not something that needs to be unique, but a username or ID would be required to be. So accepted values, that stuff like in this case for customer segment, whether they're in VIP, regular, occasional, or inactive. If that was, say, accidentally written as non-regular, as supposed to be occasional, that would get picked up and detected, and it would definitely save us a lot of time in the future. We don't have to go and figure out, say, why a column is broken in another model, because we've got this test working for us. These tests help catch issues like duplicate customer records, customers without emails, or misspelled segment names that could break your analytics. There you go. So what tests did you add in schema.yaml? I added test to schema.yaml including, so we have here, not null, we have unique, just going through the list on the right hand side, cursor, not null, unique, and accepted values. The not null test ensures columns have no missing values. The unique test ensures no duplicated values in that column, in the, say, specified column. The accepted test validates that customer segment. Actually, we can be more specific. We know what the specified column. Give one example. Say custom ID. No duplicates in the specified column, e.g. custom ID. The accepted values test validates that customer segment only contains one of the 4 options, which is inactive, occasional, regular, or VIP. Nice. So what tests did you add in schema.yaml? I added tests to schema.yaml, including not null, unique, and accepted values. The not null test ensures columns have no missing values. The unique test ensures no duplication in the specified column, e.g. custom ID. It's one of the times we use it here. Actually, that's the only time we use it in that test we made. The accepted values test validates that customer segment only contains one of the 4 options, which are inactive, occasional, regular, or VIP. Nice. Now we can actually run the test with Cursor. So in Cursor's chat, you can run this prompt, and let's see if the data passes the tests. So we've called the test. Hopefully it will report back. Okay, model isn't materialized. Let's see. Could be a potential issue here. Let's have a look. Okay, perhaps there's a... there you go. It's exist in the database. Okay, so we're going to do some on-the-fly debugging here. So I think there might be... Wonder if that wasn't supposed to be there. I might have put a semicolon at the end of there. I don't know. Let's have a look. That all looks right. Yes, that is a failure message. Thank you, Nat. Don't know if it's because of the semicolon that got put there or not. Would have thought it wouldn't be, but okay, maybe that was it. Okay, there you go. An accidental semicolon, apologies. So, we do have a failed test, but that is, as we note just here, some tests failed expected. So we'll likely see a test failure at not null custom analytics lifetime value. It's actually good. You've caught a real data quality issue, which is exactly that. How good. The problem, some customers may have null or missing lifetime values because they were never placed in any orders. This matters because null values can break calculations and dashboards. For instance, if you're going to run another model with, you're trying to times the number of, say, in this case, the custom analytics lifetime value parameter with another number, that could be total orders. And if one of the values, in this case, custom analytics lifetime value is null, then null times n, whatever n is still not going to give you a nice output. So it'll break your analytics and cause you a bit of a headache. So this is implemented to stop that from happening. And it did after I removed a semicolon. Cool. So didn't replace any orders. If we try to do any sum or average in these, it'll break. We won't get incorrect results. Cursor will show which customers have null lifetime values. Awesome. So now we know where the failing test is in this. We're going to go and send this prompt off to fix the failing tests in the custom analytics model. Update the model file to resolve any issues and explain what we changed. I did find that quick. Thank you, Natasha. So it's gone and updated the custom analytics model. That's good. So we'll hopefully update and then make the change. So it wrapped the sum and average, which is quantities aggregates. We would be concerned with a null being placed inside it, what I spoke about before. An average, you can't find an average with a null in it, well, not normally without coalesce, to handle customers with no orders. So why it was needed: when a customer has no orders, the left join returns no matching rows. Sum and average aggregates return null when there are no rows. The test requires never to be null. So results, is varied. So now we're going to rerun the custom analytics model and then rerun all the tests again and concisely summarize the new results. So ideally, we're going to see less tests failing. That's the game plan. Just calling test now. Nice. So it looks like all tests have passed. That's great. And then not null for, I think it was customer segments is what failed beforehand. So look at the failed test. So lifetime value, you see failed before. And if we look at lifetime value now, it's passed, so that's great. We understand that this is no longer going to cause issues running this later on. We picked this up because of a DBT test which we implemented, which is great. So all tests should now pass on this data. Look for an output showing all tests passed, indicating your data quality checks succeeded. Did. So what actually just happened? You identified a data quality issue through testing, fixed it in your transformation logic, and verified the fix worked, all through Cursor's chat. This is the exact workflow data engineers use every day to ensure reliable analytics. Great. So I'm going to upload a screenshot of our test results. How did you fix the test and what were the results? I fixed the test. The failing test was, what did we say it was? The fact this was being nulled was I fixed the failing test by adding a, can't remember how to spell coerce here. Coerce. Is that right? I think I spelled that correctly. Yep. Adding a coalesce to related aggregates. So that was sum, average. I think it's just sum and average. In the DBT model. After rerunning the model, all tests passed, which we can see. So that's good. Amazing, you've added production grade testing to your analytics, ready for the secret mission where you'll create professional documentation. Sure am. So document and visualize your data pipeline. Ready for the secret mission, you'll generate DBT documentation and with interactive lineage charts, the same tools that data teams at Airbnb and GitLab use to visualize how data flows through their pipelines. Nice. So we can see here a little teaser of what we're going to be creating. There's some DBT documentation which we're going to create for our own models, or our own models we just made, that we just tested and fixed. And then in the background there you can see a lineage chart which highlights model relations. So if you've got a big network of models, you're running on a big database to understand things and tests, then test the data, quality checks, you're going to want to use one of those to understand how things link together. So we will dive into that. Right, DBT auto-generates documentation with lineage charts. We can highlight that. I just explained what that was. Showing how your models connect. You'll create the same interactive docs that data teams at Airbnb and GitLab use to keep everyone aligned. What you'll do, so we're going to use Cursor to create schema documentation. So we're going to update the schema based on our customer analytics model we're using at the moment. Generate the DBT documentation and go onto the web page that will be running locally and explore the interactive documentation with lineage graphs. So what are we doing in the secret mission? I'm going to create DBT documentation which shows off model linkage via lineage graphs or charts. Lineage charts, DBT documentation which shows off model linkage, column relations, column and row relations, and general model descriptions. This is all very configurable in the schema.yaml file. We'll go into that in a minute, exactly how we're going to configure what gets documented and what doesn't. Documenting database models is important because, this varies heaps, but if you've got, so you're working in a big team, it's a really good idea to, show what you've built off in a way such that people can come and on board, whether you're onboarding them or they're just looking at documentation to understand what they're working on. Certainly a really good idea to do that. And even if you're working alone by yourself on a project or in a small team where it doesn't feel necessary to be onboarding people anytime soon, the reality is, like, if you're working with big databases or you're just not as familiar as you could be, then using documentation to remind yourself to understand what you're actually working with and working on, and your other team member who maybe doesn't work in the same, maybe you're a database engineer for a project and someone else is a project manager, even if it's a small team, showing them documentation can help a lot. Having something they can come back to, run locally, or if you wanted to host this, that could be an option too. So definitely a lot of reasons it's important. I'll touch on, I suppose, the team aspect of it, because working in teams is, because when working in teams, it is important to share how such a crucial element of a team's deliverable so documentation is important because when working in teams, it is important to, say, teams or also it is important to share and archive, I guess, how such a crucial element of your teams or maybe your products, such a crucial element of your product works. So what are we doing in the secret mission? I'm going to create a DBT, DBT documentation which shows off model linkage via lineage graphs, column and row relations, and general model descriptions. Documenting database models is important because when working in teams or solo, it is important to share and archive how such a crucial element of your product works, and the crucial element being your database. Awesome. Yes, it is cool. You can also generate documentation for this project about documentation. Documentationception. Crazy. Thanks for the comment, Nat. Look, you can even go into it here. But we'll go into this at the end. But you can look at all the content here. Damn, that looks so good. Crazy. Add schema documentation. Alright, so now we've done a bunch of talk. Now we're going to actually update the documentation and go and render it to see what it looks like. Look at the lineage graph as well. Lineage chart. So in step 3, we added to this test to the schema.yaml. That's true. Now let's enhance it with documentation descriptions. When you generate the docs site, that's the next step, next part of the step, you'll see both documentation and an automatic lineage graph will go into. Cursor send this prompt, we'll just send that there. And definitely it's a little bit strange initially that you use the same schema.yaml file for both tests and for configuring documentation, but it is the same same file. You just specify exactly how you're going to do it. You can see here what's going on there, and everything gets filled and pulled over as well from the tests into your documentation. I suppose I can read out the prompt here. Update my existing model schema file to add detailed documentation. Keep tests I already added. I said, but enhanced descriptions for the customer model, customer analytics model, and its columns. You see here, helpful for other data team members. So this is us sending the prompt off. Cursor will update the existing schema.yaml, keeping the tests and adding enhanced documentation. Very good. What is a schema.yaml file? This YAML file tells DBT, data build tool, open source one we're using, what your model represents and what each column means. DBT uses this to generate searchable, browsable documentation. We'll do that in a second. The lineage graph is generated automatically alongside this based on the SQL model dependencies. That's the sort of linkage, the relationship between them. We'll see that in a second. We saw that actually quite early on in the secret mission right at the top. Yep, so now we're going to actually generate and launch documentation and have a look at the website. So, in Cursor's terminal, we'll run this. Quite a long command, but effectively what this is doing is both running the generator to generate the projects, the documentation for this, the setup in the MCP data series folder, and it's also going to serve it to a IP address. In this case, just localhost. And this will take a second to install. But after that, we'll be able to see this running, and we can have a look exactly how this documentation is working for us. There you go, just opened. We'll read this first. What does this do? This command automatically generates the documentation files and launches a web server. Your browser will open, like it did, to the DBT documentation site. So we're expecting something along the lines of that. Okay, interesting. I wonder if that's because, I'll just close this. I wonder if that's because, and this, it might work. Yeah, we're expecting something that looks like this, with the DBT landing page, very professional looking, that we can see on the left hand side. No, it's not that. Okay. See on the left hand side we should see demo under projects, if we get this right, if it wants to run. Okay, more live troubleshooting. Here we go. DBT docs was unable to load the catalog file at. DBT docs may not work as expected. It certainly doesn't work as expected. Okay, I wonder if this is a client-side thing or a server-side thing that DBT is going under. Let's have a look. File not found. Catalog. Sending an HTTP request, so it's going somewhere. Okay. I wonder if this is a, forget path. What's going on here? Okay, see if we can use cursor to figure this out. Yeah, that is interesting. I'm sure cursor will pull through. Give it a second. Okay, I wonder if that's Missing file has been created. Okay, sure. I think okay, that's working now though. Sweet. So we can see inside of this directory here. I might open up this on the right hand side here. So we can see the directory we've run this in, and we can see the different models we've got set up here. So this is one we've just configured. These two are the ones that ran in example, which came with the DBT initialization we did at the very start. But we'll be looking at customer analytics here, which has the description we saw in the YAML file. I can actually open that up here. This model combines data from customers' orders. See that there. You can look at key features, use cases. You can look at columns here, and the data tests that we configured, so that someone that, if they're being onboarded, or someone that's just like another part of a different team that wants to understand this, they can come and quickly look. Okay, these are the tests that are being ran. These are the columns in this database. Yes, that's the code there. Flick through stuff at the top. There's like an overview, but certainly pretty neat. And then we can go into the lineage graph here, which our one will be quite plain. There's just custom analytics here. Oh, I can actually go out into this and look at the whole thing, not just that. So we can see here it's relatively plain compared to what we saw was possible. Setting up a bunch of data models can get relatively complex. So that's why in this project we're just going into setting up this one customer analytics model that's sitting here by itself, not linked to anything, but these two are connected and these two do share data between them. So that's good to know, and you can go and update the graph and move stuff around. But this is really becomes a really strong point for using DBT and the documentation when you have a lot going on. You can understand much better how things are linked together. Awesome. Okay, and that's running on localhost, not so you would have to serve that using a server or Docker if you wanted to, and then some sort of port forwarding thing to host that. Yep, and we see model descriptions and all that, which is great. Yeah, and one last thing, we can look at the lineage plot here, which we did. Before you finish, check out DBT's lineage feature. This shows how models are linked together in your data pipeline. You can click expand in the bottom right to view it, which we did. Full screen. Our lineage graph is pretty simple right now, just a few isolated models, but here's the exciting part. As you add models that reference each other, like building a customer segment that uses custom analytics, for instance, the lineage graph grows into a powerful visual map showing exactly how data flows through the entire data pipeline. Super cool. Why is lineage visualization powerful? Imagine you need to update a source table. With the lineage graph, you can instantly see every downstream model that is affected and dashboard that depends on it. So no surprises, no broken bits, no broken reports. Companies like Spotify and Netflix, data teams use lineage graphs daily to understand impacts before making changes. This is what makes DBT a great production-grade data engineering tool. And using an MCP with this, which is what we've been doing today, is makes it super easy and accessible for people. Okay, so upload a screenshot of your DBT documentation site. So we'll do that. how did you create your DBT documentation? I created the DBT documentation by running. We can put the command in here. Where's cursor? The command generated, then served it. I access the documentation by going to localhost 8080. Give the full address there. How did you create your DBT documentation? I created the DBT documentation by running run. I won't read out the entire command, but running and generating. The command generated documentation, then served it to our local host. I accessed the documentation by going to localhost and then going to the specific model, in this case customer analytics. What does your DBT documentation show? The DBT documentation shows we have shows descriptions, shows a description which has key features, and use cases. On the DBT documentation page, I can see columns. We can see columns and tests. This is valuable because a new team member is able to quickly look at the DBT documentation and understand how the database is running / setup. So what does your DBT documentation show? The DBT documentation shows a description, which is key features and use cases, and on the DBT documentation page I can see columns and tests. This is valuable because a new team member is able to quickly look at the DBT documentation and understand how the database is running / setup. So you just had to update the YAML file to alter the contents of the documentation. Yes, correct. And it carries over like any of the tests or any of the it will like automatically pick up columns and things like that, given it's in the right format. But yeah, you can update anything in there and it will follow through here immediately. Good question, that. Awesome. Well, that's the end. We will have a look cleaning up our resources. So nice work completing project 2. Choose how much you want to clean up based on whether you're going to continue to project 3. So you can keep everything. You can close Docker if you want to, close terminal and cursor. You can, if you want to stop here, you can remove DBT or everything. And it's a really good idea to use cursor to go through these things. Makes it a lot easier for Docker and the other MCPs we've got set up. But I'll be keeping stuff here, so we can go into cursor and actually stop the documentation there. So, what were the key tools and concepts you learnt in this project? The key tools I learnt, tools I used, include say cursor, MCP, say Postgres, say DBT. The key concepts I learned include transformations. There was like reformatting data. What else do you have? Data quality tests. lineage charts, DBT models, and we could say documentation, database. Probably include lineage charts here. They're really part of documentation in this case. So what were the key tools and concepts you learnt during this project? I will send my documentation link here. The key tools I use include Cursor, MCP Postgres, MCP Postgres, and DBT. Key concepts I learnt include transformations, data quality tests, DBT models, and database documentation, which is also lineage charts. How long does this project take? Look at the live stream length, 2 hours exactly, approximately 2 hours. The most challenging part was, I'd say, getting the documentation to generate successfully. It was most rewarding to, I'd say fix the tests, the failed tests, no null tests. With the skills I learnt, I want to build. I want to build on this project to use Jupyter Notebook. Use the Jupyter Notebook. This would be to create a database engineering dev environment. So how long does this project take to complete? This project took me approximately 2 hours. The most challenging part was getting the documentation to generate successfully. It was most rewarding to fix the failed no null tests. With the skills I learned, I want to build on this project to use Jupyter Notebook MCP to create a database engineering development environment. More on that in the next one. Next project. I did this project today to learn how to run models with AI in my database. Run DBT models with AI in my database. Another data engineering skill I want to learn is using Grafana. MCP maybe. That's 2 projects down the line, but we will get there. Can we make this the next project, please? We'll have to see. I think that's in the works, Nat. I think. Thanks for doing this project. Why did you do this project today? Did this meet your goals? I did this project today to learn how to run DBT models with AI in my database. On my database with AI using MCPs. Yes, documentation time. Yes, absolutely. On my database, another data engineering skill I want to learn is using Grafana. Cool. You did it. You mastered DBT and built a complete data transformation pipeline using natural language and Cursor. We learned how DBT transforms raw data into analytic ready models, how the DBT MCP lets you run transformations through chat, SQL analytics, CTEs, complex table executions, I think. I can get that one wrong. Aggregations and joins, common table expressions, to get it wrong. Data quality testing, so that's schema tests and data validation. documentation and lineage visualization for product and data teams, and how to create and orchestrate multiple MCPs and data engineering together. Okay, cool. Here's the quiz. What is the primary function of a DBT data build tool and data engineering project? In a data engineering project, to transform data in your data warehouse using SQL, to visualize data, to manage and monitor Postgres databases, to manage and orchestrate Docker containers. I would say A. C does look pretty promising, to be honest, to manage and monitor Postgres databases, but we'll go with this one. Cool. Why are DBT tests important for data quality? I will definitely do the LinkedIn post, don't worry. Why are DBT tests important for data quality? They automatically generate documentation. They speed up execution time. They automatically catch data quality issues like missing values or duplicates. They manage the deployment of DBT models. Definitely data quality stuff. What command is used to initialize DBT project? It's DBT init. What is the purpose of the profiles.yaml file? It's connections for the individual user. It contains SQL code. It lists dependencies for the DBT project. It stores database connection settings. That's right. It defines the data models and transformations. What is a CTE? I keep getting this wrong. It's a common table expression, not a complex table executable. I don't know why I thought that. In the context of SQL and DBT, a temporary named result that can be referenced, a function used to aggregate data, a command for managing database connections, a permanent table stored in the database. Pretty sure it's a temporary named result that can be referenced in a query. Yeah, like a variable. Okay, project 3, who would have thought? Jupyter Notebooks, using the Jupyter MCP on-demand APIs coming soon. We'll use Jupyter Notebooks to create a dev environment and do analysis on workflows. Be sure to join the next work community. You'll hear when it's out. I feel like if you're hearing this, you're probably already in the next work community. It still says task complete. Shock horror. Okay. Still a task at the top. Where are we? Okay, we can view the work regardless. Here. So, DBT, okay, wait, we can choose a theme. How good. Go dark, light. Fun's nice, I like fun, but we'll go dark. Why not? Matches the cursor theme. So DBT MCP AI in your models. Wow, how good does this look? I'm going to full screen it as well. This is my name, this is the date. I won't read over everything, but we can see everything here. I know what we did. How do you generate the quiz in project? Raj, is that a technical question, or is that a is that asking next work how? Oh yeah, I'll share the link in the chat. I don't even know if I can comment in the chat actually, to be honest. Yeah, I'll join in my personal email and send a link to the chat. Okay, it still doesn't let me chat for some reason. Alright. Oh no, wait.
Is that a UFO? I think it is. show this.
I will send it. It is machine made. It is not human made. It was generated on runtime if you want the specifics. Yeah, and then config is stored in the Firestore. DB. Yeah, not human made though. Okay, I hope you can see the link in the chat. I don't know if I can actually send it or not. Let's see if that worked. No, I don't think I can actually send a link from another account. I might send it to you. I'll put it in the Next Work Live channel, so you guys can look at it there. But I unfortunately can't share a link directly in chat. It does look great. You can see that here. We can try out the LinkedIn thing. I don't have LinkedIn on this account. Paste it in my browser tab. I can. That's the link there. And this is the LinkedIn post. How good. Nice. All right. Well, I think that's a wrap. Such cool documentation. How good. Yeah, highly recommend the project, and I'll be back. And I'm sure no time at all to do a project or to do the project on Jupyter Notebook. Anyway, adios. I don't think there's any more questions about my documentation. I'll wait another couple seconds. But if nothing else, then I will say goodbye for now. All right.